Well, the head of the White House Coronavirus Task Force calls the coronavirus pandemic the worst event in American history. This is the KOAM News at Noon. I'm Jesse Irwin. Much of California is back in lockdown, and the state recorded more than 30,000 new cases in a single day yesterday. That's the highest single day total in any state so far. And our own David Begnot is in Nevada, which now has more hospitalizations per capita than any other state.
Look at this. Where cars would normally be parked, there are now patients. 265 have come through this field hospital in just the last 3 weeks.
When you have to resort to a parking garage, you know things are pretty bad.
That means this is real.
Dr. Jacob Kieperman had just started his job here as an ICU doctor 3 weeks ago when he tweeted a picture of the parking garage turned field hospital right before patients arrived. Now, some on social media seized on the empty beds, suggesting it and the pandemic were fake. And one of those posts was retweeted by President Trump.
It was sad, disappointing, and frankly insulting.
The rampant spread of misinformation across the country is complicating efforts to control the pandemic. That's according to Dr. Deborah Birx of the White House Coronavirus Task Force.
And so I hear community members parroting back those situations, parroting back that masks don't work. This is not just the worst public health event. This is the worst event that this country will face.
To California now, where rising hospitalizations led to more regional lockdowns Sunday night by order of the governor. This affects more than 30 million people. Starting today, salons are closed, retailers are under strict capacity limits, and all dining, indoor and out, is suspended through Christmas.
If I'm not open by February, I will no longer be here. My restaurant cannot open for to-go.
Restaurant owner Angela Marsden is among those pleading with state leaders to change their rules after she noticed an outdoor dining tent for a film crew 15 feet away from her now closed outdoor patio.
Tell me that this is dangerous, but right next to me is a slap in my face.
The way it works in Los Angeles is that county officials classify video production work as essential and require regular COVID testing at TV and movie shoots.
David Begnot, CBS News, Reno, Nevada.
On the vaccine front, expect to hear from the FDA on Thursday about Pfizer's vaccine, and the Health and Human Services Secretary says if all goes well, we could get an authorization within days. Well, on Sunday, President Trump tweeted that former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani has tested positive for COVID-19. Giuliani, President Trump's personal attorney, has traveled in recent weeks to make the president's unsupported claims of election fraud. Well, more than 300,000 COVID-19 vaccines are expected to arrive in Missouri later this month. That's enough to give initial vaccines to all healthcare workers and long-term care residents and staff in the state. KOAM's Zach Dodge has details and reaction from a local hospital.
We now have a commitment of 339,775 doses of vaccine for initial vaccination.
Department of Health and Senior Services Director Randall Williams breaking big news to reporters during a press call on Friday.
So that's groundbreaking news.
He explains that all of those vaccines will go to healthcare workers and long-term care residents and staff. The distribution plan is complex, so let's focus on the first phase. Williams says an initial shipment of around 50,000 Pfizer vaccines are expected in the state around December 12th. Those will go to 20 different vaccine sites throughout the state for the first set of healthcare workers. Around a week later, 61,000 more Pfizer vaccines will be distributed by Walgreens and CVS to long-term care facilities. Then on December 21st, 105,000 Moderna vaccines will be sent directly to hospitals around the state, like Mercy and Freeman in Joplin.
It's good news. We have processes in place where we can vaccinate our workers very rapidly and very efficiently.
Everybody will be able to get their first shot in that universe of 350,000 in December, if not even in January, and get their second shots either in January or February.
That will conclude Part 1 of Phase 1. Part 2 will then start, more than likely in February. That will include 3 million essential workers like teachers, critical manufacturing workers, and first responders. Those vaccines will be sent to local health departments, pharmacies, and hospitals throughout the state where essential workers can be vaccinated on site.
They will identify themselves as one of those groups and be vaccinated. That at this point, I do not anticipate one group won't get priority over another.
Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
Williams anticipates moving to vaccinations in the general public by May. The vaccine will be given for free. Providers can apply a small administrative fee, but residents won't be turned away if they can't afford that fee. The state is not mandating that healthcare personnel receive the vaccine. Both Freeman and Mercy say they will be highly encouraging vaccinations. All right, Michael, what's it looking like, sir?
I tell you what, Jesse, you want to talk about beautiful December weather that we're going to have, not only for today, but really into next week. SKYWATCH storm tracker clear as a bell. Little cloud cover there up on the northeastern portion of the 4 states, but dry as can be. And that we were able to pull off even with very high humidity this morning, but that's dropped about 30%. Now down to 61%. So here's the thing. I'm going to tell you this much right now. You look at that humidity, you look at that wind. If you need to burn anything outside, yes, it's a good day to do it. It's not like me harping on, saying, oh, don't burn anything. It's too windy, it's too dry. No, today would be the opportune time to do it. As our temperatures are sitting at 48 degrees, in between 48 and 50. Humidity is good, wind is nil, and it's actually delightful. Now, by the time we get to this afternoon, we'll march up into the mid-50s, and overnight, hey, get ready for another cold one. You're going to have to wipe those windshields off tomorrow morning, but I tell you what, we got a nice warming trend on our hands as we head into the weekend. Coming up here in just a little bit, Jesse, I want to talk about why everything has been east of the Mississippi, the jet stream just dominating everything to the mid-Atlantic, which is almost made for bad conditions to the west of us at the same point in time. Hey, we're lucky here in the 4 states. We're going to sit here, we're going to roll 50s, if not 60s.
I like it. All right, thank you, sir. Well, that's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on the KOAM News at noon, Money Talks. And later, a 2020 birthday that will never be forgotten. The numbers are changing for how long you need in order, or a family member needs, to be quarantined, according to the CDC. KOAM's Kate Kelly spoke with her sister's family about why they're eager to be given the all-clear sooner rather than later.
This is my nephew's room, and he's spending a lot of extra time here after testing positive for COVID-19. He got tested after his foster siblings were exposed. So far, he's asymptomatic.
My mom keeps taking my temperature, and I've yet to have a fever.
Kobe couldn't believe he had COVID. He says he's still feeling just fine, but that's what worries him about the coronavirus, how it can spread undetected. The health department advised him to stay in his room and away from everyone else as much as possible, since he's the only one in the household who tested positive.
Yeah, it is a little different. It's a little weird having to wear a mask leaving your room. It's a little different feeling. But it's not too hard with like technology and everything. I just FaceTime my mom, ask her to give me a drink or something.
My sister is working from home, monitoring Kobe and trying to keep her 3 foster kids, ages 6, 3, and 2, all entertained. Fortunately for her, the health department says she and the kids only need to quarantine for a total of 10 days rather than 14.
A 10-day quarantine mitigates most of the risk. It's not all of the risk. There's still a tiny percentage of folks that can get that, come down symptomatic from day 11 to 14, but 10 days gets the vast majority of the people. So that's the new quarantine timeline, 10 days from last exposure. There's also another nuanced option of potentially coming out of quarantine on day 7. But to come off of quarantine on day 7, you have to have a negative test result.
The reduced quarantine time might just save my sister's sanity.
She's ready to go back. The kids are wreaking havoc. They're all over the place.
Kobe says it's important for everyone to take this pandemic seriously. He worries about getting his mom and foster siblings sick, and he's also getting tired of living in his room.
It's awful. I do not recommend this. I recommend everyone wear a mask. Everyone stay 6 feet apart.
In Joplin, Kate Kelly, KOAM News.
There's been no change to isolation procedures for those who test positive for COVID. If you're showing symptoms, you're required to isolate for 10 days. If you're asymptomatic like Kobe, you're required to isolate for 10 days after the testing date. If symptoms like a fever persist, so does your isolation time. Well, still to come on the KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
Today, we've got some great gift ideas that'll warm your heart and your tummy.
But first, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete forecast.
Now let's transition into our weather for on this December 7th, where we're talking about an average high of 49 degrees. Now here's the great thing about it. It's wonderful that everybody has come together and make sure that we take care of that vulnerable population. And here's the nice thing. We got a couple of days before that cold really sets in, because we're kind of blessed here as we see temperatures already 50 in Girard, 47 in Neosho, 51 right now in Independence. And it's not going to be too bad of a week at all as we look outside the mothership and take a look to the southeast outside our satellite arrays, where it's 48 degrees. Now feels like it's 48, but the wind certainly hasn't been too bad and humidity not too dry. So like I said earlier, if it's one of those days where you got to burn some brush, I'm not going to do that red flag advisory or anything like that. It's certainly not too bad. Just be careful. Make sure you got a hose handy as we see everything from the jet stream just push itself off to the mid-Atlantic. Now look at this on the west side of the Mississippi. Completely dry, dangerously dry when you get on the backside of the Rockies right there. Pure fire weather. Now for us, get a little cold front dropping back through here, but here's the interesting thing. It's going to shift to the east right here, and that's going to bring us some warmer temperatures for the next several days. So you can see the cloud cover that's associated with that. No precipitation, and we're actually going to be talking about abnormally warm temperatures by the time we get to the middle of the week. Work up into the mid-50s today, and then just keep on rolling. We're talking about 50s tomorrow. As a matter of fact, by the time we get into the middle of the week, how about 60s? Sounds a little bit ridiculous for the middle of December, but can't beat it. Now, comes a point in time, Jesse, where we need a little bit of rain, and that will present itself on Friday. Now, nothing severe, but at the same point in time, we look at the drought monitor, we're starting to go in the wrong direction, so we need a little bit before the end of the year. Here's the crazy thing. Remember the first 3-4 months of the year, how wet we were?
Right.
We're going to end up just on average for 2020.
How? How many days in a row is it about to rain?
No. I'm saying because we were so dry.
Oh, it's going to match up?
We were so dry from August through October.
So
we got no rain.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Balance in the world.
2 people that you don't mess with in your life.
Mother Nature.
And? Father Time.
Oh. Yeah, there you go. Well, yeah, I love this. All right, well, hey, we take this time to honor today's 4-state hero, Chief Warrant Officer Johnny Carey Jr. in the U.S. Army. The soldier from Parsons, Kansas, joined the 9th Division 382nd Regiment in 1941. Carey fought at both the battles of Leyte and Okinawa, earning a number of honors, among them a Presidential Unit Citation, 2 Bronze Stars, and the Purple Heart. To Chief Warrant Officer Johnny Carey, we thank you, our 4-state hero.
Locally.
Might be a little warm this week, but we know the 4-state cold will eventually be upon us, and that's why it's never too early to look ahead to some hot brew in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
This time of year, it seems that wherever we turn, there's someone else we want to add to our gift-giving list. And since we want to treat them extra special, rather than picking up something they'll forget about in no time, how about if we make them something truly homemade? Because in my book, there is nothing better. So here's a few ideas. It can be as basic as whipping up some butter with a touch of cinnamon and a splash of vanilla to create a gourmet butter. And when we present it in a decorative jar, along with a few holiday trimmings, we're good to go. Or how about baking an easy as can be quick bread? And that can be banana, zucchini, or my new favorite, pumpkin. Any of these wrapped in cellophane and tied with a ribbon, And we've got a gift that'll be the talk of the block. And this time of year, nothing is more welcoming than a steamy mug of hot chocolate. So how about making a batch from scratch that's brimming with mini marshmallows and chunks of chocolate and putting it in a decorative jar? Maybe give that with some plastic spoons that we dip the bowl part in some melted chocolate. It's a gift that they'll love more and more with every sip. I hope you'll go online and get the recipe for our hot cocoa mix, along with a collection of homemade goodies that are perfect for gift giving all year long. I'm Howard of the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a homemade way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
Well, you can check out this recipe along with a lot more good food on the Mr. Food Test Kitchen website. Just go to our website, KOAMnewsnow.com, and let's check out those 4-state market prices.
From Wheel of Fortune.
Fantastic!
At Kat's Fabric Store, we have over 2,000 bolts of name brand.
A parade in Joplin for a very special birthday boy. Josh Morris just turned 9, but his mother, who works at Mercy Hospital, is currently deployed, so his mom's coworkers stepped up to give him an unforgettable birthday. Mercy employees drove by, stopping to give Josh birthday presents as they passed. The Joplin Police Department and Fire Department also joined in to give Josh a very memorable birthday. Happy birthday, Josh. And here's Michael with the last look at the weather.
Hey, Josh, a happy birthday to you. And and you know what? You know your mom is with you in spirit, kiddo. That is phenomenal. That is tremendous right there. All right, highs today in the 50s, but I tell you what, here's the key factor. Look at this in the middle of the week. Those are some 60s we're throwing up in Wednesday and Thursday. So, Jesse, what do you got tonight at 5?
Well, coming up tonight at 5, warmer weather in the middle of December, the latest as we approach 60 degrees in December. Plus, school mountain biking is a fast-growing sport that's already geared toward pandemic living. While the sport has had to rethink its large-scale race weekends, kids are still getting out safely on the trails and developing both bike skills and life skills. And doctors are still learning about the long-term effects patients can face weeks and months after having coronavirus. We'll have that and more coming up at 5 o'clock.
All right, thank you all for joining us. We'll see you right back here at 5.
If you see news happening, tell